You know that feeling when you step outside on a super clear, dark night? You look up at the stars, and your brain just automatically does this thing. It completely assumes that space is this giant, endless, pitch-black container, just going on forever in every single direction. It's a really heavy, intuitive sensation, right? I mean, it is absolutely our default assumption as human beings to think of the night sky as this boundless void. But in this explainer, we are going to completely deconstruct that feeling. We're digging into some seriously fascinating source material today that uses the strict mechanical logic of astrophysics to prove something that sounds like pure science fiction. We're going to see why our universe actually has a literal, physical boundary. So is the universe infinite? That is the ultimate cosmic question we are tackling today, and honestly, the definitive answer provided by the astrophysical models in our source material is going to completely shatter that everyday assumption of an endless night sky. We are on a mission to prove exactly why the universe is finite and what literally happens if you try to travel beyond its limits. Section 1. The Infinite Universe Myth. Okay, so since humanity obviously lacks a cosmic tape measure, we can't exactly just step outside of our universe to observe its shape directly, right? Instead, we have to deduce its boundaries by analyzing exactly how it all started about 13 billion years ago. And this brilliantly illustrates our first massive paradigm shift. You see, we usually picture the Big Bang as an explosion, like picture a firework going off in a dark, empty sky, shooting stars and galaxies outward into some pre-existing space. Honestly, that's the myth we're fed in almost every science documentary. But the reality is so much more profound. When the universe expanded rapidly from a singularity, it didn't just create matter, and it absolutely didn't explode into an empty room. It was the sudden rapid creation of the room itself. Space-time was literally spun into existence. Section 2. Formatting the cosmic void. The Big Bang formatted the void. This is a specific phrase pulled straight from our text, and wow, that word formatted is incredibly intentional. It implies establishing a structure where literally none previously existed. Before the singularity expanded, you didn't just have some empty container waiting around to be filled up with stars. You had the absolute absence of a container. To really ground this, think about it like a computer. The pre-universe void is like a completely blank, uninitialized hard drive fresh off the assembly line. Before you format it, it's just raw silicon and metal. You can't save a photograph to it, you can't run a word processor on it, and that isn't because the drive is full. It's because it completely lacks a file system. There are no directories, no folders at all. The Big Bang acts as the operating system boot up. It literally formatted that blank drive, generating the directory structure of space-time so that things like stars, planets, and, well, human beings could actually exist and interact. A definitive start date plus a finite rate of expansion equals a finite current size. Follow the logic here, because it's pretty wild. If spacetime is a formatted room spun into existence at a very specific starting point, exactly 13 billion years ago, it simply cannot be infinitely large today. Why? Well, because it hasn't had infinite time to format an infinite amount of space. A process with a definitive start date and a finite rate of expansion has to yield a finite current size. Section 3. The Metric Expansion Loophole. Now, this current measurable size presents a massive mathematical contradiction we need to solve together. We've established the age of the universe is roughly 13 billion years. Now remember, the ultimate speed limit in all of physics is the speed of light. So logically, even if a photon of light started traveling the exact millisecond the universe was born, and it flew in a perfectly straight line, it has theoretically only been traveling for 13 billion years. But here is the jaw-dropping contrast. 46 billion light-years. Our source material states that space-time currently has a radius of around 46 billion light-years. Wait a second, how is that even possible? How is the universe 33 billion light-years wider than light itself could possibly travel since the very beginning of time? To unlock this massive math problem, we have to understand metric expansion, which is often called cosmic inflation. Metric expansion is the rapid expansion and stretching of the fabric of space-time itself, completely independent of objects moving through it. Basically, there's a massive difference between moving through space and the expansion of space itself. Objects moving through the formatted room of space-time are strictly bound by that speed of light, but the room itself, the formatting process of the fabric of space, that is not bound by that limit. It can and does stretch way faster than light. Visualizing this expansion is actually pretty simple. Think about drawing two dots on a deflated balloon. When you rapidly inflate that balloon, the dots aren't physically moving their own little legs across the rubber, right? The rubber itself is stretching out, creating more distance between them. This is exactly what happened to the universe. As it expanded, the rapid metric expansion stretched the physical geometry underneath the light. A photon might have only traveled for 13 billion years, but the track it was running on was continually stretching out behind and ahead of it. That is exactly what gives our perfectly finite universe that staggering 46 billion light-year radius.
Section 4. Hitting the literal wall. Now that we have a definitive, hard boundary to our universe, human curiosity obviously immediately demands to know what sits outside of it. What is actually outside that 46 billion light-year perimeter? Well, to understand the outside, we have to completely redefine nothingness. Because our brains are biologically wired to process reality through space and time, when we hear the word void, we instinctively picture an empty, pitch-black room. But an empty box isn't a true void. An empty box still has geometric structure. It has dimensions. You can grab a ruler and measure the distance from one side to the other. It might be empty of matter, sure, but it is entirely full of space.
The true void, a complete absence of a coordinate system. The infinite void surrounding our universe isn't a dark room at all. It lacks the metric architecture for any physical event to occur. There is no up, no down, no left, no right, no past, and definitely no future. It is the unformatted hard drive. It is true, absolute non-existence. Which brings us to a wildly fun thought experiment from our source material. What physically happens if your spaceship tries to cross into the void? Put yourself directly into a theoretical spaceship for a second. Fire up the engines and travel in a perfectly straight line, 46 billion light-years, to the absolute edge of that formatted space-time bubble. What physically happens when you try to leave our universe and cross over into that infinite void?
You hit a literal wall, the retro video game limit. Now, it's not a wall made of bricks or some glowing sci-fi energy shield. Think of a classic retro side-scrolling video game where your character moves from left to right. The developers format a specific digital space, right? If you navigate your character to the absolute edge of that level, standing on the very last pixel of rendered ground, and press right on your controller, what happens? Your character just walks in place. The animations fire, but you make absolutely zero forward progress. You didn't hit a brick wall, you stopped because beyond that final pixel, no code has been written. The game engine just finds a null value.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the laws of physics actually operate at the edge of reality. Let's look at the physical requirements for movement. We can turn physics into a simple checklist. For any movement to occur from point A to point B, you require two fundamental properties. First, you need space to cross, a spatial dimension to enter into. Second, you require time to elapse. Movement takes a duration to occur, space and time. The exact two things that were formatted into existence by the Big Bang, and the exact two things utterly, completely missing in the unformatted void. The universe refuses to compute a movement where no coordinates exist. So if you try to thrust your spaceship forward off the edge of the universe, the physics equation of your movement simply cannot be computed. There's literally no spatial metric to absorb your distance and no temporal metric for your movement to occur within. The wall at the edge of the universe is the impassable barrier of absolute non-existence. It actively prevents reality from advancing into unformatted nothingness.
Section 5. The ultimate cosmic paradox. We've gone through a massive paradigm shift today. We've proven we live in a finite, perfectly formatted 46 billion light-year bubble that actively stops anything from leaving. But as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a beautifully unanswerable mechanical paradox. We know the void lacks space and time, acting as this impassable wall where advancement is fundamentally impossible. But we also know our universe is rapidly expanding, so if a spaceship cannot take a single step forward into the void because there is literally no space to step into, how exactly does our entire expanding universe continually manage to push its boundaries outward into that exact same uncrossable nothingness? How on earth does it continually format the unformatted? It's a staggering contradiction to wrestle with, and honestly, I guarantee you will never look up at the infinite night sky the exact same way ever again.